What's up, everybody? I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts,
a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
Today, my story is about a savage firing.
Oh, damn. Okay. And mine is about Charles Manson and the Manson family murders.
Well, goddamn. You're going straight to the core.
I had to bring it out today. I feel like I haven't been going dark enough. No.
One of these days, we're going to do a themed episode where I do Biggie and you do Tupac.
Yes. We need to make that happen. You know, whenever people talk to me about suggestions for the podcast, they always bring up Biggie and Tupac, and I'm like, it's already on our list. We're gonna have a whole special on that. We're gonna get there when we get there. Just enjoy the ride for right now. All right. So my story today is about Charles Manson and the Manson family murders.
Oh, baby.
This is a big one, and you know, Sometimes I come up with clever titles. Sometimes I just leave it as is. For this one, I just left it as is because
there's no title necessary.
There's no title necessary. If you know about Charles Manson, you know about him. If you don't, you're about to learn all about that and then some, because even the way they refer to Manson family murders, I mean, there's so much more that could be labeled by that. But I digress. Anyway, folks, we're going to talk about Charles Manson and the Manson family murders. Charles Manson was born under the name Charles Miles Maddox in Cincinnati, Ohio on November 12th, 1934. Maddox was a cool name. Why
would you change that? Yeah, Maddox is a cool name. Manson is not.
Yeah, Manson is not, and definitely not. His mother, Kathleen, was only 15 years old when she gave birth to him out of wedlock. So she filed a paternity suit against his alleged father in 1937, who had a reputation of being a con artist, and told his mother that he was told his mother that he was in the army. Because his first name was Colonel or Colonel, you know how some people refer to it, but it's Colonel. He misled the mother by saying he was away on army business when his mother told him he was pregnant. But she eventually realized that he had no plans of ever returning.
Oh, Jesus.
So this guy's childhood was already off to a very rough start. Before he was even born, Charles' mother married a man in August of 1934 named William Eugene Manson, whose last name was adopted by Charles even after they had separated.
Okay.
So his mother would often go binge drinking with the brother, Luther, when Charles was younger, leaving him with an array of different babysitters throughout his childhood. This resulted in her getting divorced from William just 3 years after their marriage in 1937. Because of the way she neglected Charles constantly, just a few years later in 1939, she and Luther were arrested for assault and armed robbery, which forced Charles to move in with his aunt and uncle in West Virginia. Ooh, there's a lot to unpack in all of this. Child neglects.
I mean, that's all the makings of a serial killer, right?
And then to top it off, you leave him with an aunt and uncle in West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia, that alone.
Nothing good happens in West Virginia, bro.
Agreed. Not a damn thing.
Wonderful.
Just wonderful. Just twisted absurdity. Like, oh my God. Even saying it out loud, I was like, whoa. From a young age, Charles already exhibited a tendency for criminal behavior and mischief. When he was just 9 years old, he claimed to have set his school on fire and often got in trouble for petty theft during his youth.
I mean, they are who they are from the core and the jump, right? You always see serial killers. All the makings are killing animals, setting shit on fire as a kid.
Yeah, there's always signs. And now he's claiming he set his school on fire. Don't fuck with this kid. Don't fuck with him. Even though he was sent home they wanted to bring him to a wayward boys school called Gabalt School for Boys. He would often run away from that school to seek shelter elsewhere. And he was known to steal various things while he was at the school. His habit of stealing eventually led him to rob a grocery store in Indianapolis at the age of 13.
What did he rob? Money? Food?
Which many believe that was his first known crime committed outside of school.
Wow.
So things escalated quickly,
Right.
possibly setting the school on fire. I'm running away. Now I'm robbing a grocery store.
Full blown fucking criminal. He's an arson
Yeah,
and a
like
robber and not 13.
this shit's just blowing my mind.
Right.
And his erratic and aggressive behavior, some said, led him to be recommended to a minimum security prison by a psychiatrist just as a teenager.
Well, I mean, if he's escaping this place that can't keep him locked up, that's made for boys who do this crazy shit, he needs to go to some kind of facility that does.
But that's just wild. He's already on such a strong path of this destruction that you have a psychiatrist basically pleading with you guys to place him in minimum security, even though he's a teenager.
He's like, yo, we can't fix it. Whatever it is, we can't fix it.
That's like some Omen shit to me. Like the movie The Omen, I just hear like Charles Manson walks into a room and this is just like, that's crazy to me. So they got him in a minimum security. He still continued to commit various offenses, such as raping a fellow inmate at knife point.
Oh my fucking God. As a teenager,
which led him to be transferred to maximum security facilities in the early 50s.
Good. Why didn't we just put him in a fucking boarded up room and leave him in there?
He went there minimum security when he was 13, and just the crimes that you are now committing while you're in there.
Heinous.
Yeah. So eventually he was transferred to maximum security back in the 50s. Eventually, they released him early on good behavior in May of 1954.
Get the fuck out.
I swear to you. And it gets crazier, Lisa. May of 54, he got out. And then he got married a year later to a hospital waitress. And yes, I say hospital waitress because back in the day, remember the hospitals had the cafeterias and like the actual servers there.
Do they not have those anymore?
I feel like they do, but it's mostly automated now, right? I feel like there might be one or two people in there serving the food, but they're not referred to as waitress. Like they don't go to the table. Yeah. He married her a year later before getting arrested again in Los Angeles when he and his pregnant wife were caught in a vehicle stolen from Ohio.
Oh my God. He's a lifetime criminal.
I was going to say his daddy was a con man and he just inherited all of that shit. I don't know. He spent the next 12 or so years, give or take, in and out of prison, including stints at Federal Correction Institution, Terminal Island, which was in Los Angeles back then.
That sounds scary.
I mean, at this point, this motherfucker should have just been in Alcatraz. I'll just throw him over there. But after his release in 1967, he moved to Berkeley, California, where he started recruiting members for his cult, starting with a librarian at UC Berkeley named Mary Brunner. He initially talked her into letting him stay at her place for a few days, but he ended up moving in with her permanently.
Go fucking figure.
Yeah. From there, he was able to grow his cult following over time by targeting and manipulating social outcasts who were often emotionally insecure or were going through a difficult time in their lives.
Right. So can we pause for a second?
Oh, we most certainly can. Don't you worry.
You've seen this motherfucker, right?
Oh, yes, I've seen him.
He's all batty in the eyes. You look at him and you're like, that dude is out of his fucking mind, right?
Yes, he just looks dead on the inside. But, I've seen younger photos of him, though, too. And the younger photos of him, and this is the thing, some people possess great abilities. It's very few people in this world that naturally are so charismatic they can sway anyone or anything. Anyone that falls into that category, they usually use it for good, or it's just like, Hollywood stars. Yeah.
Or they're a politician.
Or yeah, sometimes they're a politician, sometimes they're an actor or actress. But this dude was just a fucking criminal to begin with, who happened to be like a pretty boy back then, and he possessed this unnatural ability. For all intents and purposes, this man was like the Joker before there was. He was essentially the Joker. Yes. Like he was this charismatic fucking weirdo that was just recruiting all the wayward weirdos. Like it's the only way I could put that shit.
I'm gonna have to look at a younger picture of him. I can't be the only one because Charles Manson younger days was an option.
Yes, there you go.
Google.
Like he wasn't a terrible person. He for the time period he looked the way he should have looked, but apparently it's just this unspoken fucking charisma that this guy had.
I don't get it. I don't know. I'm also so obstinate that I don't think I would ever be suckered into a cult, but there are people that are not as obstinate as me.
Yeah.
And I guess it's easy to do that. He was a cute little kid. Look at him as a little kid.
Yeah, but see, even in that picture, for me, it's just all Omen, like
Look at
Damien
his
type
eyes.
thing.
You're
Yeah,
right.
see, that's what I'm saying. Look at him.
His eyes are scary. What? He's planning someone's death in this picture and he's 6.
He
He's
literally
gotta
was
be.
probably picturing killing his grandmother or something in that picture. That picture's very uncomfortable for me to look at. The picture that Lisa just showed me, for those who haven't seen it, if you look it up, I'm sure you're gonna see it. It's him as a little boy sitting on a couch. He has his hand on his face, and it's just, again, his eyes. Even as an adult, he had those same glossed over eyes.
Even
Yeah.
as a baby.
Wow,
He
that
had the
baby.
same crazy eyes.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah, he's been crazy. He's always been crazy from the core. I don't understand how cults work. I told you I'm in a cult. It's a Peloton cult.
Peloton. Yeah,
but there's no one like inviting me to go do anything, right? It's not really a cult. It's just that it's a big group of people that like the same thing. This guy talks people into doing these insane things.
exactly. And his gatherings just got stronger and stronger. And here's the thing, folks, like, that's a dangerous power, because again, he's doing this back in the day. It's not like there was social media. It's not like technology was the way it was. There was no internet. Like, he is amassing a group on a grand level to just.
Well, and that seems prestigious in some way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For other people who want to be a part of something, you know, that's kind of what the ultimate goal of a cult is, to take in the lost people who are looking for that inclusion. And once you get a bunch of people and you call it family.
Mm-hmm. So whenever he spoke, he often attracted the large group listeners, and he gave some of his followers LSD so that they would be more receptive to his suggestions.
Sure, that helps. Yeah.
I'm sure that helps. And again, you guys are probably like, well, he had crazy eyes because of the LSD. If you look at baby pictures of him and like pictures of him as 5 years old, he always had crazy eyes. And again, that just goes to show you're insane, because now you're giving them LSD to influence them. You're probably taking the LSD yourself, but you're still fully cognizant in like the crazy shit that you're doing. So that's how you know you're insane. That's
The 70s
like
were nuts, man.
that's like
60s,
some Bird
70s.
Box shit to me, like that movie Bird Box, where anyone with mental, health issues or just naturally crazy people, they can look at these creatures and not go insane. That's what I feel like with Charles Manson here and LSD. While he was in the process of building his cult following, and some of you probably, as soon as I said his name, you're like, why are you talking about cult? He's known for this other thing I'm going to get into now. He was also an aspiring singer-songwriter in the LA area trying to break into the music industry. He had ties to Dennis Wilson from Beach Boys, who introduced Charles to Terry Melcher, who was a local music producer at the time. One of the songs was actually recorded and renamed to a different name by the Beach Boys, but they never gave him any credit for it.
Isn't that amazing?
That's just a mind fuck.
Right?
Soon after they released the song, he tried to secure his own deal with Melcher, but was ultimately unsuccessful in doing so. So,
could you imagine if this entire thing was an alternate universe? He could have been a fucking pop idol.
Yeah, he could have been a rock god. But the thing is, he was trying to do this while he was already amassing a cult. And that's even crazier to me. It's like, I mean, it's impressive. I don't want to give the man credit, but it's impressive that you were working on building a cult and at the same time trying to pursue your fucking music career. I don't know.
Yep.
And that's scary, because honestly, had you had a truly successful music career, you would have had a platform to influence more people. So I'm glad it didn't happen.
Have you heard about the articles or the rumors about Jared Leto having a cult in a different country?
I believe it. Again, fucking Jared Leto. Jared Leto's biggest fan is Jared Leto. And the way he talks in these interviews and shit like that, I know there's people worshiping that man somewhere.
There is a picture I saw. I was considering doing it as a story, but there just isn't enough real information there. and I was looking into it, and there's a picture. He looks like the quintessential Jesus. He's got the long hair and the beard, and he's in the
He
white
always
frock
does.
thing, and he's walking around with flowers in his hands and stuff. And there's all these people following on the beach wearing the same shit. And yeah, supposedly he's got some like weird cult following, and he claims that it's like all a joke and it's not a real thing, but.
Oh, it's clear. It's clearly real.
There's some truth to that somewhere.
Letoism.
One day we'll find out, I'm sure.
Yeah. Letholicism, Letoism. We'll find out.
Nailed it, buddy. Nailed it. So yeah, if he's as charismatic as Jared Leto is, I'm sure that's very easily can go either way. You could be a fucking rock star and actor in all these movies that he's good in some of them he's not. But
right.
All it needed was one person to be like, sure, and this could have been a totally different story.
Exactly. So like around the time of the murders we'll eventually get to, the Manson family had around 20 or so devout followers of the cult, including the key members that were actually involved in the murders that we'll get to soon. He would often reference the Beatles and share his interpretation of their work as part of the core ideologies of his family. In particular,
they were all on drugs.
Yep.
All those songs they wrote on drugs.
In particular, they used one of their songs, Helter Skelter, as a term referring to an impending apocalyptic race war that was going to occur between the black and white population in the U.S., while claiming that black people in the U.S. would revolt and kill all the white people in the U.S. except for members of the Manson family.
Except for members of the Manson family.
Yeah, so along the lines of his teachings or whatever the fuck, they thought there was going to be a race war between black and white.
Do we know why he thought that they would do that to everyone but members of the Manson family?
No. We never got into this. And I just thought that was such a specific thing. I'm like, did you just have a vision one day that black and white people were going to all out race war battle, and then the surviving black party was going to spare you and whatnot, and what they were going to keep you hostage? Like, I don't understand why we were coming for you. I don't understand why I was coming for you, Charles Manson. I don't understand. I need to know. But
the thing that's fascinating to me is it almost seems like a fear tactic. It's like it's that based in religion thing, right? It's like, don't do bad things or you'll go to hell. So it's like, come join me. I will save you in the race war if you're a part of my family.
Exactly. And that's exactly what he was saying. He believed that, although that black people would essentially stage the revolt, technically, although white people would stage a revolt against black people, he believed essentially black people would spare him, his group, his cult. But he believed that he was being spared because they needed a white man like himself to help lead them because of their lack of intelligence, and that they would eventually become his subordinates.
Get the fuck out of here.
So this man truly believed in a race war between black and white. He believed black people were going to wipe out white people except for his people. And they didn't wipe his people out because, again, they needed him as a leader.
Because they can't govern themselves. They need the white man that they just...
Yeah.
So... Oh boy, that's too much to unpack, I think, on this podcast.
That's way too much to unpack on this podcast. But listen, we like hearing when you guys chime in, message us, tell us. You can help unpack for us, and then we could probably talk about this again in a later episode. It's a lot. It's a lot of things right there to unpack. Oh my goodness, I'm just still reeling. Actually,
yeah. So am I.
Because I heard bits and pieces growing up of the story. Like, I know essentially about the Manson family murders and who was involved, but I never truly knew like the foundation of this cult, what it was building towards. So when I did my extensive research on this to find that out, I'm like, your cult followers went with this belief? Like, I would have had so many questions. Even if I was in that cult, I would have had my hand up like, well, what is that? Why would they spare us but no one else?
Hold on, Justin. You would never get suckered into a cult either. never gonna happen. You are far too inquisitive.
Yeah, I would not. I'm sure he would have been like, "Hey, can I see you after the cult session?" And then nobody would see
Break
me
your neck,
again. Yeah, exactly. No one would see me again. But yeah, during the night of August 8th, 1969, a few members of the Manson family, including Tex Watson, Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, and Patricia Krenwinkel, were instructed by Charles Manson to go to 10050 Cielo Drive in the Benedict Canyon area of Los Angeles. Manson allegedly instructed Watson to destroy everyone in the house in the most gruesome way possible and told the women to follow Watson's instructions without questions. The house was being rented at the time by infamous film director Roman Polanski and his wife, Sharon Tate. Roman Polanski, for those who don't know, he made a little film called Rosemary's Baby, which is a cult classic. He went on to do several other films. You might know him from The Pianist, things like that.
His name is very, very famous.
His name is very famous, and there is some controversy around his name, but because of the story that I'm telling you now, I feel like we're going to lead into that in a little bit because I have a lot to say on that too. Yes, at the time, his wife was Sharon Tate. She was a well-known, up-and-coming actress, very beautiful. Mm-hmm. She was 8 months pregnant at the time, but Polanski was shooting a movie in Europe. When the members of the Manson family arrived, Sharon Tate was present at the home with celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring, Wojciech Frosky, who was a friend of Polanski's, and his girlfriend Abigail Folger, who was the heiress to the Folgers' coffee fortune.
Oh boy.
Yeah. There was also Stephen Parent there and William Garrettson, the caretaker of the property.
Is she having a party? Like, oh, all these people doing a job. When I was 8 months pregnant, I didn't want to see fucking nobody. I didn't want to get off the couch. I don't want you people over here.
Well, you know, that might have been her support system. They might have been there helping her while Roman was not there. But when the group members arrived, like the Manson family arrived, Tex Watson, again, the person Charles left in charge of the group, cut the phone line to prevent anyone from calling for help.
I mean, that is shit straight out of a horror movie.
Exactly. They parked their car at the bottom of the hill and snuck into the property by climbing over the gate. As headlights approached the house, Watson then instructed the women to hide in a bush and proceeded to stop the car with Stephen Parent in it, who was there visiting William Garrettson. He then slashed at Parent and shot him 4 times while he was sitting in the front seat of his car, thus killing him.
So he slashed him with a knife?
Yeah.
And then shot him 4 times.
And then shot him 4 times.
Just pick one.
That shit's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm guessing you slashed him, you tried to get back in the car, pull out, you shot him.
Okay. But oh boy.
Shortly after that, Weston broke into the house to let the other members of the group in and rounded up the other individuals who were present at the house at the time. Tate and Sebring were tied together using rope around their necks. And while Sebring was complaining about the rough treatment they were giving a pregnant Tate, he was shot and stabbed 7 times until he died.
Oh my God.
Frykowski attempted to escape, but was also shot and stabbed multiple times by Watson, killing him just before he made it out the front door. Literally, he was that close to the front door.
My God.
While under the supervision of one woman, Folger also tried to escape Parenkel, and Watson caught up to her and stabbed her to death on the front lawn. So like inch by inch, each person's managing to escape further and further, and they're all getting caught. Back in the house, Sharon Tate begged the group to let her live just long enough for her to give birth to her child, and even tried to offer herself up as a hostage to them. However, Watson and Atkins refused and proceeded to stab her to death, killing both Tate and her unborn child. Like, this is some gruesome shit right here. God. They were allegedly told by Manson to leave a witchy sign on the crime scene, so they ended up writing pig on the front door using Tate's blood. This was supposedly done to mimic a crime scene that was caused by another Manson family member, Bobby Basulli, who was in custody for murder, and they wanted to make it seem like the killer was still out there by writing something using the blood of the victim, just like he did. So not only were they trying to make it look like they didn't do the murder, they were trying to make it look like their friend who was already arrested for murder. Yeah. So the following night, on August 9th, the 4 members of the Manson family that were responsible for the murders on Cielo Drive were joined by Charles and 2 other members of the cult, Clem Grogan and Leslie Van Houten. After Manson had expressed his displeasure about the way the murder transpired the night before, they were instructed to pay a visit to another house at 3301 Waverly Drive in the Los Feliz area of Los Angeles, where the Manson family had attended a party the year before.
Yo, I'm never going to LA. Nothing good actually happens there.
The house belonged to a supermarket executive named Lino LaBianca. He lived there with his wife, Rosemary, who was the co-owner of a local dress shop. Charles allegedly entered the house himself first to wake Leno up from sleeping on a couch at gunpoint and instructed Watson to tie him up using a leather thong. Rosemary was also then brought into the living room where the couple had their hands covered by pillowcases and bound using lamp cords. They were also both stabbed to death excessively using household objects by the group, and they used their blood to write different phrases such as helter skelter and pig around the house.
Yo, the imagery of opening your eyes from sleeping on the couch to Charles Manson pointing a gun at your face is nightmare worthy.
Exactly. As part of their plan, they were also supposed to murder Lebanese actor Salah Nader at his Venice apartment that night, but they decided to abandon that plan altogether after committing the LaBianca murders. And there's a few documentaries. I mean, there's many different documentaries about Charles Manson.
There's one with just them, the family members. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say there's one just about the family members, and then there's even one just about the LaBianca murders of that wife and husband. Earlier that morning, bodies from the murders at the Polanski residence were found by their housekeeper, who was just arriving to work when she discovered the crime scene.
So this was all in one night?
Well, technically 2 nights, because it's 2 separate nights, because it started on the 8th. The Sharon Tate murders was the 8th, and then on the 9th was the LaBianca murders. So it's 2 nights.
Okay. Jesus. Wow.
They initially believed that the Tate murders were part of a failed drug deal and did not link the 2 crime scenes together. How fucked up is that?
I mean, that's just par for the course, man. You know? You got cops in one, police precinct that are investigating murders, and if they don't fucking talk to each other, then you don't even know those things can be connected.
That's true, yeah. You would have no clue.
Yep.
So the bodies from the LaBianca murders were not found until 19 hours after they were killed.
Jesus.
The following day, which is August 10th. Rosemary's 15-year-old son from a previous marriage came home and asked his older sister and her boyfriend to help him investigate the home after he noticed all the window shades at the home were drawn.
No.
That's fucking insane.
No.
Like, to come home to discover that.
As a 15-year-old person. Okay.
It's a lot. And I just have to backtrack for a second too, like the Sharon Tate thing. Again, in that night, you murdered a Folgers heiress. Like, everybody knows Folgers coffee. You also murdered top industry people. And then you killed Sharon Tate, who was already becoming a superstar in her own right. And she was pregnant.
That's a special kind of hell.
That's a special kind of hell. But also, I personally don't know how the fuck I would mentally process all of that.
You don't.
Exactly. You don't. But that's why I said some people might know Roman Polanski for controversy. After all of that said and done, years later, he ended up with someone in another country that definitely ended up being underage legally. No. Should not have been a thing. And that's another reason why he doesn't come back to the US. I'm not condoning that. Again, disclaimer, I'm not condoning his actions.
Right.
But what I am saying is this man's wife and unborn child and all of his friends were fucking murdered.
Yeah.
In a house for occult murdering. Like,
it's super fucked.
It's a super fucked scenario, and I can see why maybe he won the Best Director Oscar for The Pianist and intentionally received it via video from another country because he knows he can't step foot in the US.
Right.
Again, it's a hazy thing. It's a fucked up thing. It's all fucked up. I digress. The two murders were originally investigated separately until the team working on the LaBianca murders started to look into similar cases around the city in October of 1969. They were able to find similarities in the Tate and Hinham murders. Hinham was the original murder that their cohort did. It was called Hinman. Okay. Hinman murders. Yeah. In terms as far as the way the victims were killed and how they used blood to write around the residences after the slaying.
I mean, that was their goal, right? To try and make the police connect the two.
It was actually a roommate of one of the members of the group, Susan Atkins, that told LAPD about their involvement in both the crimes.
Yep.
The authorities started to apprehend suspects from the Manson family in December 1969 and put them into custody while awaiting the trials collectively. So all the participants in the crime were initially given a death sentence before the Supreme Court of California ruled that death sentences in the state were considered to be unconstitutional in 1972.
Yeah.
Which spared the lives of 107 death row inmates in California at the time.
Yeah, I don't know if those are the ones that we should have spared.
Agreed. They should not have been spared. This essentially changed their ruling to life sentences in prison, including a possibility for parole by law. Tex Watson still remains in prison to this day after his parole was denied 17 times. You heard right, 17 times.
Yeah, that motherfucker needs to die in there.
I would have just been like, yo, don't even apply because you never get in parole, son. That's how I feel about it.
You never get in parole, son.
17 times this man applied over decades and he was denied.
Yep.
And he claims to be a born again Christian now. I don't care.
Nope, neither do I.
You don't get to be born again when you. How are you born again 8 times or 10 times? Because that's how many times you'd need to be born again after you took 8, 10 lives. How many fucking lives you took? It means nothing to me.
There's no saving you. I don't care what your religion is. Religion means nothing to your character. There's horrible people who are based morals and religion means shit to me.
Yeah. So that's what's up with him. But Leslie Van Houten is also still in prison today after being the youngest member of the Manson family to be convicted of murder and the youngest woman to ever be put on death row in California at the age of 21. Of all of the surviving members that were arrested, Patricia Krenwinkel is the only one that has the potential to get approved for parole, as she was approved by the parole board after her 15th parole hearing. She's still awaiting their final decision, but is now considered to be the longest incarcerated female inmate in the California prison system.
Yep.
This distinction was previously held by her accomplice, Susan Atkins, who was arrested before her, but she died of brain cancer in 2009 at the age of 61 while serving out her life sentence. Charles Manson was in prison until he passed away in November of 2017 because of cardiac arrest resulting from complications of his colon cancer and respiratory failure after spending all but 13 years of his life in a correctional environment, such as prison or home for boys. So the man literally spent almost all of his life in a form of prison or institution. Right. He's only spent 13 years outside of any sort of prison, any sort of institution.
And how old was he?
He was 83 when he died. And look at this, only 13 years of his life was outside of correctional environments.
Nuts. And look how much damage he did in 13 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's the type of person that should have never been released, should have never been let out. We already knew at a young age what he was doing. You died at 83. 13 years of your life is only spent on the outside, motherfucker. Like, that's insane.
And all he did was wreak havoc on people's lives. And isn't it something like he didn't actually commit the murders?
That's the thing. He didn't commit the murders for the Sharon Tate one. He had them all do that. But the LaBianca stuff, he was within. They have evidence for that. And I think they have evidence of other undocumented murders that he partook in later on. That's within a bunch of documentaries as well that you could look at. But that's crazy. They really only pins him for LaBianca.
And he's a cult leader for a bunch of murderers. Just insane.
When people grow up like in a difficult environment, they're often exposed to traumatic events and experiences that affect the person that they eventually become once they're older. But because of the lack of nurturing they receive in their younger days, they're more prone to acting out and replicating some of the bad habits that they've been exposed to in the past.
No doubt.
In some extreme cases, such as with Charles Manson. I mean, this can lead to a lifetime of crime and incarceration while leaving behind a trail of death and destruction. As gruesome as these stories may be, it's important that we review all the details and facts behind these crimes to gain a better understanding of the bigger picture behind it all now. All those victims, unborn children.
The thing is, that story has like a little bit of everything, right? It's got murder, it's got cults, it's got mental health, prison systems, broken systems. He really ran the gambit on all of that. Arson, robbery. He hit it all.
He did it all. He did it all.
Man, some people live to 83 and they don't deserve it.
Agreed.
And there's saints in this world that leave us so early.
Some of the good die young and some of the evil fucking live forever. I swear. It's just
bastards. Oh man, thanks for doing that one. That one's a big lift.
No problem. I know. I was like, eventually we're gonna have to get to this. I'm like, let me do it now. And lately I've been ultra light, so I'm like, let me just bam.
Let me just go to the king of the castle and hit the Manson family. Oh well, I'm glad the one that I did is a lot lighter than yours. So, like I said, my story is about a savage firing. And when I say savage firing, I mean the literal firing of Fred Savage.
Oh damn. Not our Wonder Years. Not our Wonder Years boy.
Buddy. Yeah. So he was very recently removed from working on a project, and it was totally warranted. Sorry for the trickery. It's not a savage firing. It's just a play on words. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Fred Savage in case the name isn't ringing a bell. Frederick Aaron Savage was born July 9th, 1976 in Chicago, Illinois. He's the son of Joanne and Louis Savage, who was an industrial real estate broker and consultant. Savage grew up in Glencoe, Illinois before moving to California. His younger brother is an actor we all love.
Oh, yes. We know.
Ben Savage. If you don't know who that is, I'll tell you in a few minutes.
You should be ashamed of yourself if you don't know, but yeah.
Seriously. Or if you don't know Fred Savage, you should probably be ashamed. What I didn't know is they had a younger sister who is an actress and a musician named Kala Savage. So Fred Savage's first screen performance was in the television show Morning Star, Evening Star, and he was 9 years old. He then appeared on screen in The Boy Who Could Fly, Dinosaurs, a fun-filled trip back in time, and several TV shows, including The Twilight Zone and A Crime Story, before gaining national attention as the grandson in the 1987 film The Princess Bride, opposite Peter Falk. In 1988, Savage appeared as Kevin Arnold on The Wonder Years, which is the role he's best known for. And he received 2 Golden Globe nominations and 2 Emmy nominations for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series. And at the age of 13, he was the youngest actor ever to receive these honors. I mean, The Wonder Years is The Wonder Years. Just, do people not know about this show? I mean, you have to,
younger
right?
than us, they don't know.
What?
I enjoyed The Wonder Years for the most part, but as he was getting older, his character was very grating. Yeah, he was very whiny. Yeah.
The thing for me is you're probably right because that the younger generation doesn't know, because I feel like I watched this on like Nick at Night with like black and white I Love Lucy and like,
oh damn,
where did you watch it? It's 80s.
I watched it like on ABC or whatever in reruns.
I don't know. I kind of placed them all in the same place, but now Nick at Night is like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which totally ridiculous.
Yeah, and Friends, and Friends? I'm like, okay,
I'm dead. I can't handle it. Okay,
we're getting old.
He remained on Wonder Years until it ended in 93. So 88 to 93. It's a pretty good run. During this period, he appeared in several films, most notably Vice Versa. And he also starred in Little Monsters.
I love that movie, by the way. I fucking love that movie. Monsters? It's so underrated. With him and Howie Mandel, yes. I
don't know that I've ever seen it. What is it about?
You have to check it out. He just moves to a new town, and underneath the bed, this creature comes out. He traps the monster. It's Howie Mandel. Then Howie Mandel takes him underneath the bed to like Monster World, and they become close. You need to watch it. I'm not going to spoil it. It's a funny movie. It's like rated PG. It's got some undertones to it.
Okay, cool. The Wonder Years ended, and Savage returned to high school at the age of 17, and he was educated at Brentwood School, a privately co-educational day school in Brentwood, California. It was on the west side of LA, and he graduated from Stanford University in 1999 with a bachelor's degree in English and as a member of Sigma Alpha Epsilon.
Yeah.
His first television role after high school was in the NBC sitcom Working, which Savage starred in for its 2-season run. So he was on, I've never seen that show. Have you even heard of Working?
I've never heard of it.
Me neither. He also starred in as a series of guest and supporting roles in the late 90s to the 2000s, such as on the show Boy Meets World, which starred his younger brother, Ben Savage. And he was in the film Austin Powers, Goldmember. Do you remember him in that
That's
movie?
exactly what he was the mole. When you were like, he's most well known for the Wonder Years, I wanted to be like, he's most well known for being the mole. Mole.
Nice to mole you, meet you. Don't say mole. I said mole. Mole. One of the best scenes ever.
Seriously.
And I forgot Beyonce was in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how, but I forgot. She looks great. Savage has lent his voice to several animated projects, like we were saying. He's been on Family Guy, Kim Possible, Justice League Unlimited, Oswald, and The Holidays, The Christmas That Almost Didn't Happen. His 2 lead roles since the Wonder Years were on short-lived sitcoms, Working, and Crumbs. Also another show I've never seen.
The fuck is Crumbs? What is that about?
We'll get there. He appeared as a serial rapist on a 2003 episode of Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and a womanizing professor on Boy Meets World. And he was ranked number 27 on VH1's 100 Greatest Kid Stars. And he, in 2008, guest starred in a web series called The Rascal on Crackle.
Okay.
Like, this is all like menial shit, you know, that for a person with the name Fred Savage feels kind of sad.
I mean, yeah, it's also weird. I feel like I'm going to have to. I remember that Boy Meets World episode of him as like the skeevy professor, but I've never seen that Law and Order episode. I kind of want to watch it now because on paper, it's kind of like that sounds really awkward casting for him on paper. But again, I don't know how he is in real life.
Right. What casting director looked at him and was like, "You want to be a rapist? You're Kevin Arnold from the Wonder Years."
Do they know something we don't about his outside life? I don't know, but I'm going to have to check it out now.
So in 2015, he returned to acting with the Fox series, The Grinder. Producer Nick Stroller approached Savage about playing the role of Stewart on The Grinder, and Savage was uninterested at first, but agreed to meet with the producers of the series because his children attended school with Stroller's children. Of course they did. Rich hoity-toity people. Savage eventually agreed to take on the role. The Grinder was canceled by Fox in May of 2016. So,
Of course.
short-lived. In 2017, he joined the cast of a Netflix series, Friends from College.
I actually did watch the first season of that. I forgot he was in that, but he's one of the main characters. It's him and Keegan-Michael Key.
Yep. His name is Max Adler, and he plays a gay literary agent on the show. So The Wonder Years is like a beloved American TV show. It's iconic, and he is the face of that show. You immediately, when you think The Wonder Years, I don't know about you, but I see the little boy on the bike going down the block.
Hear the theme song in my head. Yeah, I see Winnie.
And his dorky little friend and his doofy brother, right? You can see all of it in your head. And for those who don't know who Ben Savage is, his little brother played Corey on Boy Meets World. The Wonder Years show of our generation. Because really it was. Like
it was the same shit, yeah.
It's kind of crazy that these two brothers, can both star in these like iconic coming of age stories, but in 2 totally different generations.
Exactly. I mean, again, I want to know who their agents were, because even in Little Monsters, Ben Savage, I think that was like his first role.
Oh my God, he was the cutest little kid ever.
He played Fred's brother. Like he played his brother basically in the movie, which was weird.
I remember being a kid and realizing for the first time that they were brothers. And it was when he was on the Boy Meets World episode. And I was like, what? My mind exploded. I couldn't handle it. Even though he appeared to be the sweet, dorky character in love with the girl next door on The Wonder Years, in 1993, Savage, who at the time was 16, And Jason Hervey, who was 18, the guy who played his bigger brother Wayne Arnold on the show, they were accused of verbally and sexually harassing the show's costume designer. Her name was Monique Long. Long's attorney said at the time that Long had been fired after complaining about how she was allegedly treated. Savage's lawyer characterized Long as a disgruntled employee and said the action was a nuisance suit aimed at publicly embarrassing him. The lawsuit was filed in March of 1993, but it was settled out of court in April of 94.
Okay.
Fred Savage has still to this day denied any wrongdoing. And the actress Allie Mills, who played Norma on the show, called those allegations against Savage completely ridiculous in a 2018 interview with Yahoo Entertainment. She claims that the lawsuit prompted the Wonder Years cancellation after only the 6 seasons that it was given. And she said, I just thought it was a joke. You know, they bought her off, which really made me mad. They wanted to avoid a scandal or something, but it made them look guilty. You know, you don't pay someone off when there's no crime. You just fire the girl.
Oh my God. Norma sounds like a bitch. I don't know.
Doesn't she?
Holy crap. Okay, Norma.
See, this is the thing where it's hard to differentiate between not taking women at their word.
Right.
And anyone being conniving, you know, and trying to utilize some kind of stance for anything to gain. She said a state welfare worker was required to be with Fred Savage at all times under the California labor laws. And that person dismissed the allegation, saying that it was absurd and that if Fred said anything, 20 people would have heard it because he was mic'd up most of the time.
Exactly. Okay.
So this is one of those things where it's like, maybe something happened, maybe it didn't. We'll just never really know. You could easily brush it off, which is kind of sad.
It's a tough call. Yeah, because even now I'm like, okay, I get that he was mic'd up and I get that he had like a Wrangler because he was underage. But on the flip side of that, again, this man was Fred Savage. He was already in all these shows. He was in this hit show. They probably were doing everything they could to protect his image, his brand.
Well, and kid actors, you hear these stories, they're treated like adults.
Mm-hmm.
They're in clubs and bars. They're doing fucking coke and drinking and doing all these things. To say that he has a Wrangler, sure, on paper.
Yeah, on paper.
What does that really mean? If he's like, yo, go away.
Exactly.
That person might go away.
Go away. I'm going to go talk to her.
Right.
You know, he could have flat out been like, I'm Fred Savage, whatever.
There's no mention in here of any further allegations against the other actor who played his brother. Like, why would she say both of them? I don't know. It just seems silly to me for it to not be true. Why say just those 2 children actors are the ones who did it and not his best friend, I don't know the actor's name, or anyone else? Why just those 2?
Right.
Fast forward to March of 2018.
Huge time jump.
Huge time. Yeah, he went from being a child to being an adult. Okay. Oh, God, this poor woman. I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher your name. Youngjo Huang. She worked in the wardrobe department on The Grinder. We have a commonality.
A type.
She sued Fred Savage and 20th Century Fox's film and television divisions. And the lawsuit, reviewed by the Times, alleged assault and battery by the actor and said he displayed aggressive behavior, intimidation, and constant use of profanity aimed towards female employees on the Fox show. Very different picture than what he's always portrayed in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
So the lawsuit described a climatic incident in which Savage, after allegedly being counseled to change his behavior towards Huang, violently struck Miss Huang's arm 3 times with his hand after the show's director asked her to brush dandruff off the shoulders of Savage's suit. So I guess she touched him and he smacked in the arm.
And he flipped out. Okay.
Yeah. These accusations are completely without merit and absolutely untrue, Savage said in a statement at the time. After concluding a thorough investigation, Fox determined there was absolutely no evidence to support these accusations. None of her claims could be substantiated because they did not happen, and the case was dismissed in mid-2019.
Okay.
So it's so hard to not believe these people. Who makes up this shit?
That's my thing. Who could make it up? And again, this was the
Why
Grinder
not make
was
up something worse than being smacked in the arm?
exactly.
Like, if you're going to go for it, go all the way, you know?
Exactly. No, it's a very specific thing. That's why I'm like, I don't think she's making it up. Because again, like that was a very clear detail. You're part of wardrobe. The director asked you to wipe the dandruff off his shoulders. You tapped him. And we all know how it goes on film sets. It's like each group, it's an individual group doing separate things at the same time. We just cut the scene. Fred was standing there, probably getting notes or some shit.
Yeah.
Wardrobe head was like, you go over there, brush the dandruff off before the next take. She walks over there. He's unsuscepte. He doesn't realize that she was told to do that. She brushes it off of Fred. And then bam, he just, why you touch me? Like, it's just you know what I mean?
Even so, yeah. A normal person's reaction is to just be like, what are you doing? And pull away, not to turn around and smack that person back in the arm. It's just a strange reaction. It's something that is natural for him to do.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's something that's calculated. If he was startled and he goes hands, it's...
No, it's definitely natural. Again, she was probably tapping a shoulder to brush it off, and he just pop, started hitting her. Yeah.
So most recently, Fred Savage was working on the Wonder Years reboot. He was executive producer and director on the reboot comedy, which premiered in September of 21. And now the show revolves around a black family with kids growing up in Montgomery, Alabama in the late 60s, which what a time frame. I'm sure that show is trying to be very poignant in what they're doing.
Right.
The former child star directed 8 episodes, including the pilot, and the show's first season wrapped on May 18th. About 2 weeks later, Savage was abruptly fired in light of accusations of sexual harassment and assault. Third time's a fucking charm, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
So, a spokesperson for 20th Television told The Times, recently we were made aware of allegations of inappropriate conduct by Fred Savage, and as of is policy, an investigation was launched. Upon its completion, the decision was made to terminate his employment as an executive producer and director of The Wonder Years. Savage reportedly cooperated with the investigation, which included 3 allegations of inappropriate behavior. Do we see a pattern here?
Yeah, there's definitely a pattern.
Number, man. So what the hell happened? What did he do this time? It was as Fred Savage was preparing to direct his 9th episode of the reboot that a group of 6 women on the crew united to take action. Despite their fears about possible repercussions, in February they sent a complaint to Disney and subsequently spoke to an HR executive regarding their concerns about the former child star's conduct towards several women on the production. So they said they sent the complaint to Disney, who owns ABC, and they got a very fast response, and that included the barring of the director from the set of The Wonder Years as the investigation began. So as soon as the complaint was hit, they kicked him off set.
I believe it. Well, that's the thing, though, too, because like you said, third time's the charm, but also the first 2 incidents that he did, one was Grindr within Fox, but the other one was the original Wonder Years. I think that's ABC. The major factor here, though, is Disney now owns Fox. As of a few years ago, Disney now owns Fox.
Disney owns everything.
Yeah, Disney basically owns everything. That's a whole other rant I can go into. But the one thing we can all agree about Disney is when it comes to their non-disclosures, they're also tight, but you don't ever see shit happening right now with Disney people.
Fuck around and find out.
There is no accusations. There's no nothing because they are so on top of that shit. They don't play around with that. So I'm glad that these women rallied together to speak up on it. I'm also glad that, Disney was now in charge, because if it was still ABC, who knows? This could have got swept under the rug.
Exactly. So the women who contacted Disney have requested anonymity out of fear of potential damage to their careers, which is heartbreaking and horrible. The 6 women interviewed said that they were moved to contact The Hollywood Reporter after reading a positive Page 6 article about Savage doing a lot of self-reflection in the wake of his firing.
Oh, boy.
They felt people needed to know exactly what those allegations were. You can't just say there have been things brought to our attention and then just close the door.
Exactly. Yeah, because I remember when he first got fired, they were like, he's been removed, and they didn't explain why. I'm like, he got caught doing something.
Well, this is what he got caught doing. The women said they saw 2 sides of Savage, very Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So one minute he was a charismatic colleague, and the next he'd flip, and his darker alter ego would come out. And he could flip to the latter persona in like an instant. One said that his eyes would just go dead. Like creepy shit. I could see it. I could picture it. One of the women said Savage never engaged in such behavior in front of the other actors or executives. They all see his absolute perfect best face, but he sometimes showed a different side to the below the line, quote unquote, employees who don't have power.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if that's not a true sign of your character. One of the women questioned the strangeness of Savage's relationship with a much younger woman working on the crew. She said that he proceeded to verbally harass her and belittle her when she tried to shield the younger woman from him. And keep in mind, Fred Savage is 46 years old. He's married and has 3 kids. Okay.
Yeah.
So the source wasn't the only one who had become concerned about that relationship. Others say at one point the young woman moved into the house Savage occupied in the artsy Cabbagetown neighborhood of Atlanta where The Wonder Years was filming. And an associate says that she shared he was buying her gifts and talking about what they were going to do together in the future.
That's so weird. And he was still married at the time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh.
He's still married right now.
Oh, shit. Okay.
But sources say she shared that she was sometimes fearful of him when he was angry. He was extremely controlling of her daily behaviors, and he was manipulative and erratic. But the young woman wasn't the only one on the crew that attracted Savage's attention to the point that others noticed. One of the 6 women who reported Savage says she saw his very blatant favoritism toward another crew member, a woman in her early 30s, and she found it unsettling. She said she'd been in the industry a long time and she'd never seen anything quite like that, and she'd seen a lot. Sounds a little self-congratulatory, but I digress. So the woman in question, who has worked in the industry for about a decade, said that Savage had befriended her over the course of the months that they were making the show, and they'd become acquaintances and friends, but it was very platonic. He took her to dinner and offered her expensive gifts, and she declined. She put a kibosh on that shit.
Good.
He did, however, continue their friendship. He met and charmed her parents. Knowing that she was an aspiring writer and comedian, she said that he made efforts to help with her career. He came to her shows, and he paid her to co-write a public service announcement. She says she considered him to be like a brother. And at one point, she went through a bad breakup, and she said he was aware of it. I was very vulnerable. We're on set for 16 hours a day. Of course, I told him everything. And they were friends, so that's like not a crazy idea. I've been through bad breakups. You've been through bad breakups. We are friends who have been there for each other. Some people have a hard time understanding opposite sex friendships,
platonic.
But
Exactly.
It's just ridiculous to me. So, yeah, so that's not totally far-fetched for me, but then she was abruptly fired. Though she doesn't think that Fred Savage is the cause for her firing, she was given no prior warning or cause. And she said she texted him and he was ecstatic. And he was like, this is the beginning of your career. You're moving to LA. This is it.
Whoa.
It's just a weird thing, isn't it?
So he got her fired, basically.
I think so.
So you can be freed.
I guess. So she said that in 2021, when she was no longer working on the show, she ran into him at a bar where the crew often gathered. I don't think I put it in the notes, but there was an article I read about how he was very much about the crew being together. They would go out to dinner. He would invite them all to that house that they talked about. And people found him to be very charismatic and charming and welcoming. And then you have these 6 women who got this like different view of him. There's 2 completely different versions of him that live in this context. So she saw them out at a bar, which was common. He would often invite everyone out to a club or a bar so that they could keep their camaraderie and be together.
Right.
And he was buying shots for everyone in the crew. And she alleged he followed her into a woman's bathroom and put his mouth on hers very forcefully.
Whoa.
Right. The fucking balls. So then he went for the top of her pants and she brushed him away. And then he put his mouth on hers again and he grabbed her hand and pulled it to his groin area. And she was pulling back and he stopped very angrily and she shoulder checked him so she can get the fuck out of there. And that was it. She left.
She should have gave him a right hook on that. Yeah.
For real. You should just kneed him right in that groin.
Mm-hmm.
So she said Savage continued to text and call her for a couple of weeks following the incident. She didn't answer. And finally, he left a voice message. And I have it. He said, "It's your old friend, Fred. We worked together for a while and then we didn't. And then I was a huge asshole. A huge asshole. I am really sorry. And I've kind of owed you an apology for a minute here. So the truth is, I really like you and I really want to be friends. And I'm so sorry that I fucked that up." And he hung up the phone.
I'm sure he's sorry.
Yeah. I'm sure he's sorry now. In an interview with the New York Post, Fred Savage stated that for the bulk of his life, he had worked on sets with thousands of people and had always strived to contribute to an inclusive, safe, and supportive work environment during production. It was devastating to learn that there are coworkers who feel that he had fallen short of these goals. While there are some incidents being reported that absolutely did not happen and could not have happened, any one person who feels hurt or offended by my actions is one person too many.
Oh, gosh. He's laying it on thick there.
Jesus, do you think? The lady doth protest too much? The actor said he would work to address and change any behavior that has negatively affected anyone, as nothing in this world is more important to him than being a supportive coworker, friend, husband, father, and person. Blow it out your ass, Fred Savage. You done fucked up a few times.
Uh-huh.
So, this is where I struggle, because on one hand, some of these recent allegations sound just like petty jealousy. I know I probably shouldn't feel that way.
But on the other hand, though.
Yeah, I mean, well, the problem is like me saying that kind of perpetuates that cycle of women not coming forward for fear of not being believed. And I'm not trying to do that here. The thing for me is the thing about the young woman that he may or may not have been having an extramarital affair with isn't the one complaining. So out of those 6 women, she's not one of those women.
That is correct.
So like, mind your fucking business. I don't know. That one seems weird to me.
I mean, on the flip side of that, she's not complaining, but she's younger too, right? She might not.
Yeah, but you can't call her stupid for being younger. She made
I
a
wouldn't call her
choice.
stupid.
You know, it's her own choice to do that. So just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean that you get to. I don't know. It felt like they were dragging some skeleton out of the shadows to add to all of it for me.
I agree with that aspect. I do agree with you.
You know, like that's not a part of the story. Yeah, just say he's cheating on his wife. You don't need to like get all into all this shit. She's not the one complaining.
Exactly.
The bathroom incident, however, completely different fucking story. You could be as drunk as you'd like, but you can't force yourself on someone ever.
Exactly.
That's just horrible. And to think that she felt some kind of kinship to him and he just fucking ruined it. And his poor wife and kids now have to live in this world where all of this crap comes to the surface.
They're now being embarrassed by it.
And his wife's probably humiliated. But you know, I mean, he was trying to do it with her too, the girl in the bathroom, taking her to dinner, trying to buy her stuff. He's got sort of an MO.
And we also don't know how he treats his wife. If he's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde elsewhere, he's probably been doing that at home too, behind closed doors, you know?
Undoubtedly. And I mean, all of his instances always are fired towards women. It seems to be like a commonality. That's always his harassment of women that he's working with. So I don't know if that's something deep ingrained.
Yeah.
Speculation. But Hollywood can be pretty ugly sometimes. And this is one of those scenarios that it's just, again, he's been sued, right? But there's no actual law enforcement involved.
Yeah, not once. I haven't heard any.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see what will come of this because this is still fairly fresh. But that is a story of a savage firing.
Damn. That definitely was savage. Fred Savage. I'm going to have to find that Law and Order episode as well. Because now with all these allegations, I'm like, I just need to see for myself. Was he basically playing himself? When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.